You may have noticed that I've been publishing fewer podcast episodes as of late. So, what's been going on in my world? What's been happening? That's what we're going to be looking at in this episode of the New Music Industry Podcast.
You're listening to the New Music Industry with David Andrew Wiebe.
Hey, it's David Andrew Wiebe. Now, this is not the David Andrew Wiebe Show. The show is for you and about you. I always just share about my own discoveries in hopes that they will help you advance your music career. And with that context established, the promise I have, although it is basically unspoken, I've never made this promise publicly. The unspoken promise I have to you is that I publish new podcast content on a weekly basis. Of course, we've missed a few weeks lately, and so I wanted to address what that was because there can obviously be an impact on people who are checking my blog or sending me emails or writing to me on social media. To be fair, some of you have heard back from me, but some of you have not, and obviously there's an impact there, and there's a lot going in my life. So I thought I would share about that, and as I continue to catch up and get connected with everybody and continue to be in action and communication with you, just thought it would be worth mentioning that I'm not just sitting at home on a couch playing video games. In fact, that's pretty rare. I might play for half an hour or an hour at night before bed or something like that, but that's not my life, folks. It just isn't. And so, I think it's worth mentioning too that on an average year, I publish 48 episodes, not 52, right? I've looked over the past and I've evaluated my results and my habits. And so 48 episodes usually end up missing something in the summer or maybe during the holidays, which is understandable. And maybe that's kind of where your mind is at too. It's like, hey, it's summer, don't worry about it or whatever. And I totally understand and appreciate that perspective as well. But I guess what I'll say is, thank you for your grace either way. And that is the unspoken promise that I've had that I've now basically validated and brought into existence with you. Now, what's been going on? So at the top of June, I took a break. Some of you may know, some of you may not know. I'm pretty sure I announced it publicly. But yeah, during that time, besides kind of planning and thinking about next projects, I really wasn't doing a whole lot. I still did an interview with Amos Bracewell. We did a live stream there. And I will be editing down the audio from that interview and sharing it in a future podcast episode as well. Although I'll talk a little bit more about the content that is coming in the podcast in the coming weeks because I already have a few episodes. Well, maybe not a few, a couple of episodes in the can. They just need to be edited and pieced together for your listening pleasure. So immediately after I went on break, I started a very intensive leadership and management program. So this is me following through on the things I share with others and tell others to do, which is to keep growing. I'm a strong believer in ongoing self-education, as I shared in a much earlier episode on the podcast. And I just want you to know that my commitment to myself and to others is so huge that I do not stop, despite major breakdowns, despite major life struggles, despite breakups and cars breaking down and everything that's happened to this point. Really, the biggest impact of all is when my dad died when I was 13. Despite all that, I've soldiered on. I've continued to show up and engage in personal development. And that's been a daily pursuit for me since 2007. Yeah, I'm sure I've taken a day off here and there, maybe on the weekends, but aside from that, I've stayed very consistent and very steady with it, such that I could continue to rise to a level that could be of greater value to you and the people around me. So when I started this leadership and management program, I knew it was going to be intense. I just really had no idea how intense it was going to be. I've had a few different experiences, okay? Some that were quite intense in their own way and draconian in their own way. For number one, when I lived in Japan, I joined the basketball team in junior high. And if junior high wasn't intensive enough in its own way, because we had to show up in uniform, everything had to be perfect, hair had to be a certain way, We had to wear neckties. If we were boys, we could have the necktie off, but only if our blazer was off. Okay, like this is how much detail. You had to wear a specific type of shoe. Like this is how much detail we went into. If you were part of any club, and I do mean just about any club, some were a little slacker than others, you would basically be at school from about 8 in the morning or whenever school starts. I don't remember. It's been a while, but I think it was about 8 all the way to probably 7, 8, or even 9 at night. So all of your after school hours would be dominated by the club activity. In my case, it was basketball. And honestly, that was mostly drills and running and building muscle. You didn't even get to dribble a ball unless you were on the team. And that was quite intense for me. If the teacher wasn't or the coach wasn't physically abusive, I may have opted to stay on that team. But he was, unfortunately, and that discouraged me from continuing. It wasn't the militaristic style drills and constant exercise that necessarily had me leave, even though it was kind of agitating some of my former injuries. It was more so the fact that I had a abusive coach, and that just didn't sit right with me. Another very intensive program that I've been a part of was network marketing from about the years of 2011 to 2015. And unless you've experienced it for yourself, you just have no idea what that looks like. And it started off with a great sense of excitement, as many projects do. It's like, this is something I want to do, something I want to share with people. I want to coach others. I want to build a team. I want to achieve financial freedom. All those things were in view, and I wanted to make dreams come true as well. So that was a really big part of what I was looking to create within that structure of that business. And before I knew it, it was like there were board meetings, probably 2 or 3 per week that, not required to go to, but definitely strongly recommended. There were regional conferences and meetings once or twice a week. There were 4 major functions per year. And yeah, almost every weekend, probably 2 or 3 weekends out of the year, there was some kind of event going on that, again, not necessarily required to attend, but strongly, strongly recommended that you be there, even if it's just to get around your upline and to talk to them. And sometimes those meetings would be far out of town, a good 3-hour drive. In some cases, I know some of my upline did 6-hour drives to go and get extra motivation and coaching from other groups. So, and of course, the major functions, most of them weren't in town either. So that could be a good 12-hour drive out of town just to get to those functions as well. And really, your life is structured around your work, which is whatever it is. For me, that was a lot of writing and creative work. And then your evenings would be structured around going and contacting and inviting people. If you had any spare time or free time, that's where it was spent. You went out, you made friends, you got to know people, and you invited them to be a part of the business, or at least to come take a look at it. And that's how that played out. So having had experiences like that in my life, I was not anticipating quite what this leadership and management program was. And it's a new level. It really is. And it's good. It's absolutely stretching me in new ways, having discovered myself in new ways, how I do things, how I don't do some things, how I haven't risen to my potential in some areas. And that's been really great for me. Of course, yeah, it's put some time constraints as far as getting things done in terms of the podcast. It's not just that, though. There's a few other factors at play. And, this is not an excuse. Despite everything that has been going on, I'm still intending to create podcast content for you on a weekly basis. I've also been working on getting the new music business membership set up. So that's been a really big undertaking, and I've tried a few ways that didn't work. That's okay. This iteration is really the one. And there are some announcements coming, of course, in future podcast episodes. So keep an eye out for that. There will be new episodes coming out talking more about this membership and this opportunity that's becoming available. I've been building a team around building this music business membership because part of it is benefiting the education of underprivileged children. And as you may know, I'm hugely passionate about education. So to me, this is a project that gets me up early in the morning and keeps me up late at night. I'm inspired to work on it every single day. Yeah, I still have my moments of hesitation or just like, yeah, even though I'm supposed to work on this, I'm not. I still have those moments. For the most part, it's like I haven't been stopped, I haven't been held back. I really have been working diligently on this. And I'm not going to say there isn't much more to do. There is. But building a team around this has been exhilarating in its own way and really beautiful. I've had team members step up and raise funds in their own ways, not just through this new membership that we're going to be building. And I built a team of 7 along with 3 resources or advisors, as it were. And it's just been incredible working with others who can contribute to the project and be a part of it and share their ideas and also ask really great questions. So I've really loved that. That's been great. I've also been publishing daily for a full year. As I'm speaking to you now, it's July 28th, which means it has been a full year. Today is completion, and that feels really, really good. I'm not going to lie though, even though it maybe only takes up an hour per day on average, it occupies so much mind space when you're doing these 365-day experiments or projects that somehow it just ends up taking up more of your mind space and therefore more of your time, which has really been my experience of it. Overall, though, my experience has been so positive that I'm thinking about continuing in the same, not in the same capacity, but thinking about continuing in some capacity. It will look different because I want to align my publishing with my goals more so. So that might mean, yeah, I might publish more short, pithy posts on my own blog while, writing on Medium maybe once per week or so, something that's more tailored to that audience, that something that they would be interested in, and all while publishing really great high quality content, blog and podcast content, and probably some videos too on Music Entrepreneur HQ. But yeah, publishing daily, that was a challenge, but it's exciting to have completed it. It's been super rewarding and super fulfilling, and I'm glad that I did it. I've also been planning a work vacation for August, or a working vacation rather, and I'm planning to head out to Calgary for a couple of weeks to celebrate my birthday and be with family and friends, and looking forward to that as well. In some ways, that's just been a long time coming. Obviously, with lockdowns and everything else, I haven't gotten to go. I haven't gotten to venture outside of Abbotsford, Vancouver area all that much, but I am looking forward to being able to do a little bit of that here this summer. And really, it's well earned and much needed. And then I've also been spending some time catching up with my other writing work, paid writing work, and I continue to do that. But those are some of the things that have been going on in my world, such that have me stopped. Not really stopped, though, just like constrained time wise and energy wise in bringing weekly podcast content to you. So, just to summarize that, because I know I went off on a few tangents, I started a new leadership and management program. It's very intensive. I'm getting my new music business membership set up, and I also built a team around that. I've been publishing daily for a full year, and today I complete that. And I've also been planning a work vacation for August. So that's what's been there for me, and I thought it was worth mentioning because those are some pretty big undertakings, whether I can explain the gravity of them to you or not. And that also explains why maybe I haven't gotten around to your email yet. And it doesn't mean I won't, all right? Now, a couple more updates, and then I'm going to wrap up this episode of the podcast. First thing is we're being way more intentional with our social media now. So as it stands, I'm just creating weekly engaging content that goes out across Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. We have regular YouTube content as well because the podcast content also ends up on YouTube, and sometimes we are creating video content that ends up becoming podcast content. So there's also regular updates for YouTube, but we're being way more intentional of just providing something that's engaging, that has some personality, that maybe asks and stimulates some thoughts and questions from you. And I wanted you to know that because we really want you to engage. So could you do me a favor and head on over to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all of the above, or just your favorite platform? Follow us or like our page or whatever it is, and also leave a comment. Could you do that for me? Would really appreciate it. Love it if you could go and do that now if you're listening while jogging or in your car or whatever else. I get it. Just make a mental note for later. Go and do that. Leave a comment. Let us know what you're getting out of the podcast, or just say, hey, I'm listening to the show, loving it. That's all I need to hear. But if you could do that for me, if you're listening to this now, I would super appreciate it. Now, in creating this new Music Biz membership, obviously there's been some musicians who are super excited about it. What's interesting is I've had other creatives ask, what about me? It sounds like maybe they want something of their own. So if you're a creative listening to this, and I don't see why you wouldn't be, this podcast features content on personal development, on creativity, on spirituality, in addition to marketing and being a musician and digital marketing and all that kind of stuff. What would you want? What is something that you want? Obviously, my daily publishing efforts on my blog at davidandrewwiebe.com have sort of been tailored towards more generally to creatives rather than more specifically to musicians most of the time. But what is it that you would want? Would you want a book? Would you buy that? Would you want a course? Would you want your own premium membership community where you could interact and also engage with training and other types of content? You got to let me know, all right? So you can send me an email, david@dawcast.com, or you can just leave a comment in the show notes or even on social media, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. What is it that you want? Because we could maybe create that next, build a team around that, right? There's any number of unlimited possibilities that we could pursue here, and I'd love to be able to serve you as well. If you're not a musician, but you're going, I would love something like this. In terms of interviews to come on the podcast, I already mentioned that I did a live stream with singer Amos Bracewell. We're going to be editing that down and putting it into the podcast feed. Also have an interview coming up with Daryl Hurst of Indie Week, and that's already been recorded, so keep an eye out for that. One other thing that I've been up to is composing music for a new short. So if everything else wasn't already intense and busy in its own way, maybe not busy because, I'm in control of my time, but productive or effective, I think I like effective, is that I've been composing some music for a short, and that's been pretty exciting. That should earn me another IMDb credit at least, and could lead to other opportunities. So I covered a lot of ground today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Like I said, this is not the David Andrew Wiebe show, but I figured just based on the impact and what you may be wondering what's going on in my world and why there hasn't been any podcast episodes, or just to get more related to what I'm creating right now, I thought I would share this with you. So thanks for listening. And hey, if you would do me another favor, head on over to the new musicentrepreneurhq.com. Send me an email and share your thoughts with me. We're really working hard to streamline and make it look nicer and make it work better. What's missing for you? Is there anything that we could tweak? Is there anything we could improve? Is there something that is missing for you? Look forward to hearing your thoughts.
Thank you for listening. Music in this episode was brought to you by Brian Young. Wherever you're listening to this right now, please consider leaving a 5-star review and comment to help us get the word out about the podcast.